So the recent video, great riding or not? It's really good to see so many comments on this video. I normally like to respond to all the comments individually, but in the case of this video I expected quite a lot of comments to come in, so I thought rather than write to them, I'd make a video and address them all in one go. So for those of you who watched the video and those of you that took the time to write a comment and give me your opinion, thank you so much. It's what makes the channel interesting when we're all sharing our thoughts and our views. And I must say, we had quite a wide range of comments and thoughts on all of these clips. There were common themes throughout many of them, and a lot of the opinions varied from all 7 clips showed poor, inconsiderate, dangerous riding. You know, and some people thought that everyone there was an absolute idiot, and those opinions ranged through to that some of the clips were fair. Some of the clips actually were good riding, that there was nothing wrong with it whatsoever. So what I've done today is I've popped out and I thought I'd have a look at all the different locations that I could find and just give a different perspective whilst on my bike. There's a couple of locations there that I can't recreate because they're quite some distance away from me, so I won't be doing that, but I'll try and find some similar-ish circumstances just so we can talk through. One thing that I think is particularly interesting from my perspective when I look at your comments and read what you've said, because I always endeavour to read every comment that everybody makes, is about perspective. Those clips initially, of course, in isolation don't give the whole picture. There's camera angles missing, there's run-ups to the events that we didn't see, so we're only seeing a very small snapshot of some riding. It's not always in context. So some people will base their opinions on exactly what they see, and other people will look at it a little bit wider and say, yeah, maybe, but what if this happened and what if that occurred? I very much like that open-mindedness. It's something that I try and bring, hopefully you notice in the channel, it's something I hopefully try and bring to my training when I'm training students. I've noticed some instructors, particularly at basic level, tend to be very hard and fast on many things and say, well, you must do this, you must not do that, etc, etc. Well, whilst there are things that really you shouldn't do, and some things, yeah, you absolutely should do, I remember a discussion not so long ago with somebody saying 2 words in training that are generally unhelpful: always and never. Always do this, never do that. It's very difficult to be so prescriptive because a road and traffic is such a dynamic set of circumstances to plant in someone's head, especially when they're a new rider, that you must never do something or you must always do something, can actually be quite a dangerous thing to do. Maybe because it can disempower them from having their own thoughts, and that in turn stops them from adapting to a set of circumstances. I've seen this quite a lot with road positioning. You should never be in position 5, you should never use position 1. That, to my mind, is wrong. There are absolutely occasions where it is justified, reasonable, and sometimes the safest thing to use those positions. So one thing that was interesting from a lot of your comments, which makes you think, in training we often use the word safety. We use it so much. Preserve your safety, don't compromise your safety. Is it safe? You can emerge when it's safe. Your comments showed that we've all got a different interpretation in the various circumstances of what safe actually is. What I think's safe, you might think's not safe, and vice versa. We've all got different degrees of perception of what safety really is. And so with that in mind, we'll have a look at these clips and see what you think. So to start with then, we'll just look at clip 1. I think the largest consensus on clip 1 was that this was stupid, silly, ill-advised, although there was some suggestion that overtaking off of a junction could be an advanced move. I have heard that before in the past. However, Let's do our best to look at this clip from the rider's perspective and see what sort of view they'd actually have. And bearing in mind the camera angles can make things look slightly different to reality, let's see whether we'd think that it was still an ill-advised manoeuvre. So basically, as we approach, we can see across the green there where that road is, but of course it's mainly hidden. Doesn't give us much of a fantastic view. It is a stop junction, and it's clearly very blind to the left. Now when I look at the video, that motorcycle's on the other side of the road, probably at this point here. I think that's ill-advised, because you never know if someone's going to come around that corner. Because there's no one behind me, I'm going to have a quick look up that road. There's the bend, and you can just see the cars coming round. So that's the view you have from here. However, when we get a little bit further up the road, and of course, by doing that manoeuvre, he's contravened the stop junction on the wrong side of the road. I'm going to have to check this out very carefully because the view here is very poor. So you can see, even if I get on the white line there, if it's safe to do so, the view around that bend, and there comes a car straight away and I've had to move. It's a shocking view. So now we're going to look at the junction from the perspective of an oncoming vehicle that could have met that motorcycle head on. So at the moment we can't see the junction. I'm going to move slightly to the left, but don't forget a car driver would have a slightly restricted view by being more to the right. And there's the junction, and we're soon upon it. So yeah, probably all things considered, not an advanced manoeuvre at all. So for those of you who say it wasn't a good idea, absolutely agree. In that particular circumstance, not a good idea at all, not sensible. Okay, so let's look now at clip 2. That's the lovely large touring bike with the pillion taking a late exit. Or is it late? So we had a bit of a mixed bag on opinions on this one. So we had those that ranged from, yet again, being a bit daft, being a bit silly, leaving it a bit late, putting themselves at risk, to those that said, no, it's fair, I can't see a problem with it. And also a few comments saying, no, it's an advanced manoeuvre, absolutely great, not a problem. So I can tell you, I was trained to exit dual carriageways in a very fast way when I was in the police. It's something we needed to be able to do, something we needed to be able to assess. Now I can't recreate the exact bit of road because I'm not going to pop up the A1 or wherever it was just for a short video. So I'll just do a little bit of dual carriageway work locally to me and perhaps just look at it in a bit more detail. So from memory, the highway code advises, and certainly the rider manual advises, that when wishing to leave a dual carriageway or a motorway, you should bring yourself into the near side lane, lane 1, in good time so that you can leave the main road safely. It's like here, we've got a third of a mile to go before we exit. I'm not going to take this exit because it's a very easy exit to do. But let's think about it. 300 yards approximately, 200 yards, 100 yards. At 70 mile an hour, it's going to be about 9 seconds from the 300 yard board to your exit. So when you're planning leaving a dual carriageway, to think about your very simple calculation, you should be able to estimate how long it's going to take you at the speed you're travelling to reach the exit. So when you reach that first direction board that says you're a mile from the exit, if you're doing 60 mile an hour, you're going to be there in a minute. And at 70 mile an hour, you're going to be there in about 51 seconds. Use those maths to help you work out what's going to happen, how you're going to do it. Of course, what you shouldn't be doing is cutting up another road user. And with an obstruction like a large goods vehicle, as we saw in that clip, as with everything, your plan A may not always work out, so you always need a plan B. So always make sure there's enough flexibility in what you're doing so that you can adapt, change your mind, if necessarily bail out safely. Having 100% commitment, finding things don't go quite as you expected and then having no fallback is dangerous on a motorcycle. So for example, taking the slip road late, let's leave this one a little bit late. Use the limit point. This is tight. Keeping the speed on. Right, now, get the speed off. Brake, 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 brake. Position, speed, gear, acceleration. Now I've come around that one a little bit slower just to talk through and to prove a point there. So I took a fairly late exit, and it was a fairly tight slip road and a fairly short slip road. Why it's good to be able to use firm controlled braking and also having a good awareness of the limit point. You need to know your machine's capabilities, your capabilities, and so on. So one little critique I would give to that rider in the clip that we looked at, his road position could have been slightly better for him. It could have been more advantageous. If he'd have positioned more out to the right, it would have given him an earlier view around the bend, it would have given him a slightly smoother line to take, and it could have just been more helpful. As it was, he obviously got round, wasn't an issue, wasn't a problem, but it's something to consider, isn't it? So in essence then, clip number 2, not necessarily a bad manoeuvre. From a slap perspective, just don't cut it so fine that you look like you're reckless, you're late or incompetent and you've made a mistake. Try and execute the manoeuvre with plenty of space. Make sure that nobody's going to be alarmed by what you're doing, and then there's no real issues. But if you do make a late exit like that without thinking, planning, cutting across chevrons, then yes, you are going to be putting yourself at risk, and you are going to be upsetting other road users who are going to perceive you as being less than the best. So now we'll have a look at clip 3, the cheeky little filter overtake, which shouldn't really have been done. Now most of you thought that that was just bad manners, impolite, inconsiderate, and possibly agreed that it was dangerous as well, although some people did think it was okay to do it. But let's have a quick little look at the location and what may have happened. Now today's quite quiet for traffic, but we can see that car now coming into the traffic calming like the camera car. There's one vehicle coming up, so we're not going to get a replication of exactly what happened, but from my perspective I wouldn't have gone round that car in the traffic calming. Now in all fairness, one thing that we could have said, what if that car that was waiting back there had its left indicator on, say it was parked and then it decided to move away after the motorcycles? It's a possibility. I'd say it's a small possibility, bearing in mind the way that that road's laid out there, but it is a possibility. Having said that, if that were the case, it would still have been better for the motorcycles to wait for the two vehicles that were coming towards us, because the obstruction was on their side, and it would have been better to let the traffic run freely and then go through when it was clear. So yeah, in that respect, with those of you who said nah, not the best idea, I agree with you. Okay, let's have a look at clip 4 now then. The Africa Twin filtering up towards the lights. General consensus opinion was it was too fast and you were taking your chances a little bit in case something happened. Now some people did say, in all fairness, perhaps the camera made the bike look faster than it was. The chances of a vehicle moving were remote because there was no gaps in the traffic, and chances of someone opening a door are very low. Yeah, I agree with that. So we can just see not so much traffic today. This is the slip road it happened on. Would we filter up there? I mean, I'm doing 40 now. I'm coming into this a little bit slower. You can just see my speeds dropping down, 30, 25, 20. Now I'm not going to filter there because of the van, but I'm just going to hold that position a little bit. It just gives you an idea. Traffic's building a little bit behind me. I couldn't be sure of the bike's speed. I did various calculations, doing some measurements on Google Maps and things like that. I came up with some very slightly different results, but I think generally speaking I was around about an average of 37 mile an hour on that filter. Can't swear to it. I'll be honest with you, I would not filter at 37 mile an hour. So we're now going to look at clip 5, the little bikes. Most people didn't think there's anything horribly wrong with this. We're travelling in the direction of the camera car at the moment. We'll come back on the other way as well. So as I say, most people thought that that was sort of okay really. There wasn't anything awful with that. A couple of people said, yeah, I get your point, I might modify my riding a little bit. But some people did think it was silly. Some people did think it was a bit daft in what he did. So here's the clip again, you can just see what happened. And then what we'll do is we'll come back. Here's the bit of road here, you can see. Let's slow it down a little bit. Let's slow this right down. So you can see the sort of bend that we've got here. There's the farm building. There's quite a bit of mud on the road here as well, in all fairness. So I shall do my best to avoid that. So basically, the bike was pretty much at one point in the middle of the road, and then he saw the car coming towards him and he had to move back in. Should we be in the middle of the road? Yet again, it very much depends on the visibility you have ahead of you, doesn't it? If you can see way up that road and nothing's coming, it doesn't really matter where you are on that road, because it's not going to cause a problem unless you've got any other additional hazards to the left or right to think about. So let's go from the direction of the little bikes now and view that road. Now if I've got no one behind me, I'm going to go quite slowly and we can have a proper look at the road and have a look at what sort of view we're likely to get. Let's drop that screen down a little bit. Let's try and get a slightly better view. So there's the farm buildings there, we can just see across the way. Right, so I'm going to go nice and slow. So there's no point at the moment being too far to the middle of the road. So we're going to just come back a little bit. We can just see across that green bank there. So it's like on this section of road there, it can be in the middle of the road, but it's choosing the right time to come back to be away from the centre of the road. It's like here, it's not really a problem me being in the centre of the road here, especially not with the van ahead of me. It does offer a little bit of protection, it's not 100%, I still have to be aware of other hazards left and right, and I can see that vehicle coming towards me, so I'm already going to start deferring, which is perfect timing for that right hand bend anyway. It just makes sense to do that. I think it's like with any of these manoeuvres, if they're planned, if they're well thought out, if you've got a good understanding, then safety is going to be way up on that list. You're going to be preserving your safety. But they say a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, and I think that's very true. So in the case of that clip there, probably best not to drive too near the centre of the road when the view ahead is very limited. The problem with it is you never know how fast the oncoming traffic's coming, and if they are being reckless, way over the speed limit, then you will definitely have a problem. So clip 6, where we saw the adventure bike, GS I believe it was, popping out for a view. So a lot of people thought that he was dangerous, they thought it was silly, they thought it was going to be potentially scary to the oncoming traffic, and that he got it wrong. You may well be right, but we know that popping out for a view is trained at advanced level, and like now I'm following this lorry. Am I going to pop out for a view? Well, if I get the opportunity to pop out for a view, I will. But I've got to make sure I don't scare anyone else in the process. Now, I was thinking about moving out there a little bit, but I can see that car coming towards me, and I can see that there's a right-hand bend coming up where that tree is. So at the moment, absolutely no point in popping out for a view. but it's always a consideration, because at the end of the day, if you are going to do an overtake, you need to be on the other side of the road before you put the gas on. It's like now, if I close up a fraction, just check my mirrors, make sure no one's up behind me, likely to overtake before me. Okay, can I pop out for a view? So at this point, I've popped out for a view. I can hold that view, I can see the car coming towards me. Do you know what? Let's pop back in. That car probably hasn't even seen me, that oncoming car. I'm looking across that field, visibility is not very good, I can see a large goods vehicle coming towards me. No point in popping out for a view. Now in all fairness, I've lingered on that view of popping out. Let's check my rear, because we've come to a complete stop on a national speed limit road, so just consider a little flash of the brake light in a minute maybe for the oncoming car. Yeah, so I lingered there really just for the point of the video. It was safe to do so, there was no one close up behind me. It does make me wonder if the Fiat in front saw me and thought, what's he doing? But the point is, it's okay, isn't it? It's part of the 3-stage overtake that you get taught at advanced level. You just got to make sure you don't do it where someone coming towards you might think that something's gone horribly wrong. That's not very helpful to anybody. So, yeah, the worst thing probably about that GS popping out on the other side of the road was the road was quite bendy. The distance between limit points was probably quite short, and by popping out for a view at that point, there was always the chance someone would come round the corner and be alarmed. I don't know if he planned a crafty overtake and got it wrong, or I really can't say whether what he was doing there was just using an advanced technique and having a look with a consideration. Of course, it still brings into question, doesn't it, perception, if we think about our SLAP acronym again. Was what he was doing safe? Well, he didn't put himself in immediate jeopardy, so safe, yeah, I suppose it was at that moment in time. Was it legal? Well, it was. He wasn't contravening any speed limits by the looks of it, or any white line systems. Did it achieve anything? Well, it probably did. It told him there was a vehicle coming towards him. Did it give him an advantage? It gave him an earlier view up the road, if you want to look at it in that way. Perception. What was the perception? The oncoming vehicle probably thought, what on earth's going on here? And had to sort of slow down a little bit. So in that respect, it sort of possibly fell down on the very last point. So all in all, not out and out awful, terrible, but just maybe not quite as good as it could have been. Well, let's have a little look at clip 7 then. What can we do here? Okay, only 2 lanes. Did that look horrendous? So let's take away from the fact that most of you thought that this guy had stolen the bike, and that he's clearly inappropriately dressed, and clearly the exhaust pipe is about as loud as you can get. Is that manoeuvre so awful? Well, he's probably speeding. So there's lots of legal issues there, but was it dangerous per se? It is questionable, isn't it? Certainly, we perceive a lot from what we see based on a lot of other factors. Some people have said, what's the car doing hogging lane 3? The problem is, we have no rear view camera and we have no side cameras. So we can't see what the motorcycle did prior to the overtake. We have no idea what the traffic was like to the side, and we have no idea what the traffic was like to the rear. I wonder, as the viewer, what you'd have thought had you seen that motorcycle being a rather nice white BMW and someone in a high-vis picking up speed rapidly and just cutting out and crossing to the lanes. Would you have perceived it differently? It does beg the question, maybe. The fact remains, yet again, years ago, my police training taught me to join or overtake fairly rapidly. What we can't tell from the clip here is that motorcycle just undertaking and riding aggressively and recklessly, or has he joined at a slip road and decided just to chop across the lanes and take lane 4 and get on with it? Quite a few unknowns, but I'm guessing he's not a highly qualified rider. Most of you thought he was stupid and dangerous, and I think that's the view that most will probably concur with. So thank you again for watching the final wash up of those 7 clips. I think what it shows is we've all got different perspectives, we've all got slightly different beliefs, we've all got different abilities, we are going to view things differently. But certainly when we see clips on the internet, we also have to be a little bit open-minded, because what you're seeing in isolation may not be in context with everything else. They say the camera never lies. Well, of course, with AI now, yes, it absolutely can. But it's not so much the camera doesn't lie, it may be telling the truth at that moment in time. It's just the context that you view it in. Anyway, until next time, ride safe and take care.